Today on the international and GBA stage, we have welcomed an amazing panel who have spent many years across the Thailand startup ecosystem. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Nala to kickstart the panel on Thailand in search of a unicorn.
Thank you, Josephine. First of all, I'd like to welcome you to the Startup Impact Summit, specifically the international and GBA stage. And of course, this session, Thailand in search of the unicorn. As the title goes, today we are going to dig deep and discuss the startup landscape of Thailand, focusing on the challenges and of course, the opportunities in both startups and investment in the country. I am excited to introduce you guys to our panelists, which is the two key players in the startup ecosystem in Thailand. The first one is the co-founder of Techsauce and Techsauce Global Summit, the largest international tech conference in Southeast Asia, Mimi Oranuch Lerdsuwankij. And from the investment side, we have here with us our beautiful VC, Nutthanun Jaroenjitkul, Corporate Strategy and Investment Director of Wisesight. My name is Nala Puttiputtachart, the Program Director of CU Innovation Hub, and today I'm going to be the moderator for this session. So, to start off, I'd like to, for the audience to get to know you guys a little bit. How about we start off with Mimi? Would you kindly tell us a little bit more about you and Techsauce?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Mimi. Actually, the Thai name is Oranuch Lerdsuwankij, but understand it's hard to pronounce. So you can call me Mimi. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Techsauce, which is the first and the pioneer of the startup community in Thailand. And we have the tech startup media that called Techsauce.co, both Thai and English version. And we also organized one of the largest technology conference that called Techsauce Global Summit. Normally we have 20,000 people join our event, but for this year we are facing one of the biggest challenge situation, the COVID-19. So currently we trying to find out the solution, turn it to be like a virtual summit or maybe the hybrid solution.
Okay. And I'm Nikki. So I used to work for the venture capital in Thailand, which get the money from the Thai government saving bank and stock exchange of Thailand. And with a couple months ago, I moved to the technology company called Wisesight. That our venture capital invest in this company.
Not only from the investment side, now you also have the entrepreneurial kind of spirit as well, right?
Yeah, we can say that. That's fair enough.
Yeah. So thank you, both of you, for being here with us today. It's going to be a very insightful session and yet very, very casual. So just to set the mood right, I'll just let you guys know, feel free to jump in anytime if you have anything to share.
Okay?
Okay.
So for the audience to understand the landscape of Thai startup, I would like for you, Mimi, that has been in the ecosystem since the very beginning, right? To 20
yes,
right?
To 2012. That is the one. This is the beginning of Thai startup ecosystem. During that time, there's just a few companies like WHub built, and some of the big wigs call him Thai startup godfather, Kun Krating. He just came back from the Silicon Valley and joined the startup ecosystem. He set up the institute that called Disrupt University. So during that time, Techsauce organized one of the first meetup, the startup meetup in Thailand at WHub co-working space, which is this is the first co-working space in Thailand before the big player from other country open the office here. And
right.
so today we have
seen back then. I'm sorry, from back then until now. What has been the progress of the landscape so far?
In 2012, most of the startup during that time they are focused on a mobile application, and I think it's really tough for the startup who target B2C, because normally, as we have known, the consumer normally they will not pay. Like Thai people, they will not pay the service. But most of the startup who are the rising star and they are the mature startup in Thailand, their business model is like B2B. If you check like Omise, e-commerce, Bilk, even Wongnai, they are B2B2C. But normally, how can they monetize? They start to charge from the corporate side. So the promising startup in Thailand, most of them they start from the B2B and then maybe expand to the B2B2C. Today I also have the number of the funding amount. I would like to share it to you. Since 2012, Thai startup has attract about like 434 million US dollar from 2012 until 2019. And last year, but yeah, frankly speaking, when compared with the other country like Indonesia or Singapore, we are still very young. But we still have seen the opportunity in this market and potential unicorn. And last year, the total amount of fundraising is around 97.55 million US dollar. This is a minimum because of some of the company they would like to do not want to share to the public. So these are the minimum number. And I also have the record, even during the COVID-19, from Q1 to Q2, the number of the fundraising amount is around 140 million US dollar. But but because of Omise, actually, they just announced the Series C investment. And they have got like 80 million US dollar. And three companies are fintech, Omise, Digio, and another one is Phenomena. And another one is LightNet. Four companies are fintech, and there are two companies from education tech, and another one is e-commerce. Actually, they have raised mini round before, and another one is the property tech, See My Home.
All right.
So this is almost 140 million US dollar
during the COVID pandemic.
Yeah, during the COVID pandemic, from Q1 to Q2.
Impressive. As we have seen, I think everybody knows that a lot of Thai startups are shifting to B2B now, even though some of them started off with B2B. I didn't know that most of the promising startups started off as B2B. Right. Okay. So what about from the investment side, Nikki? What has you seen in the ecosystem for the past few years?
Okay, so if we talk about ecosystem, it's like very big topic, and it's like very it's very big and broad topic. So I think it will have a long talk about this one, but I try to summary from my experience. So let's say that I divide it into two parts, like the startup part and the investment part. Okay, so let's start with the startup part. Startup part I divide into the local startup and for the international startup. So just in case that some Hong Kong people would like to join, or regional people would like to join Thai regions. So I would like to start with a local startup first. I would say that in a couple years ago, I quite agree with P. Mimi that in the look and mood and tone and feel of the Thai startup, it's like very joyful and very lively, much more than nowadays. And most of them are like, they used to be B2C before, and nowadays they kind of like fell apart, and only B2B what I have seen is the one who still stay in the market, or some company that start with a B2C and nowadays they have to kind of diverse their business model to be B2B in order to get sustained and get some cash flow into their business. Yeah, I think most of it is because that although Thai people have like although our GDP is kind of like the second place in the ASEAN, and we have like the fourth number of population, but really that our concentration of wealth is not that high. That's why we see that people not really pay, because our concentration of wealth is just concentrate into like some amount, like very tiny 0.1% of the whole country. What this means it means that Thai people in general are not that rich, right? What the GDP say, because the wealth concentrate to just some small tiny like a million people who have that wealth, like less than 10 million people.
And most of them in Bangkok as well.
Right? Yeah, and most of them, I would say 80% is in Bangkok. And also our population, you see that a lot of Thai startup, local startup have difficulty to get adoption rate, because our population is like on average is on 40 or 38 years old. On the other hand, on the average of the ASEAN is around 30, Indonesia is 28, and Malaysia is younger than that. So as you see that our population is younger and our income distribution is not really well distributed. Like I think we are quite the worst in our region. So I think if some startup would like to establish in Thailand, you need to go for the B2B market, because I think, okay, one of the things that Thai people are very good at is there are not many countries in ASEAN that have strong market B2B side. It's only the country that have concentration of the expat people, and one of them, like for example, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia, that have a lot of expat. That's why they have like the know-how of the B2B business, and Thailand is one of them. So I think this is kind of one of the strengths that Thailand is good at. If you want to start the business, you start with the B2B first, not the B2C, because B2C you need to learn to burn a lot of money, because you know that Thailand, we don't really have much money to pay for any additional living necessary in life. Yeah,
the luxury of
yeah yeah, not even luxury, it's like above average minimum of living. I think it's quite challenged to get the B2C market. And for the international market, I think you guys, like if you're already successful outside of Thailand and you would like to come to Thailand, I think you're the most welcome, and Thailand has market for you. But the thing is, maybe you need to be localized for Thai market. Yeah, it's not, because I think Thai consumer and Thai behavior is quite different in each country. Like for example, our religion is quite unique from the rest of the ASEANs, and our consumer behavior is, so you need to go for the localized solutions. And I think the company that and if some company would like to get the investment in Thailand, I think the one that promising for you, it will be the CVC rather than the general local Thai VC, because CVC will have capability to invest in the international startup. And for the investor side, for the local investor, I think what they are, from my experience, what they are looking for is it's unlikely, and it's quite different from the perspective of the international venture capital, because international venture capital, they look at the consumer growth rate, they look at like the traction, they look at how fast they grow. But for Thai local investor, we're looking for the revenue and the bottom line, and we aim for the M&A or IPO, not the unicorn market, because we understand that for Thai market, if you concentrate in Thai, it's unlikely to be a unicorn, but you can get some substantial amount of exit by doing the M&A and IPO. So for the international investor that would like to invest in Thai company. Maybe you have to develop, adopt to the different mindset that you maybe cannot aim for the high growth of the consumer, because this is like the amount of people that we have. So, and also in Thailand, I think we have a lot of money left for in terms of the investment theme.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can see that many company nowadays, they just set up the corporate VC, and meaning that they have a lot of money, but they cannot find like the technology or good startup to invest in. So you have to compete with these people. So I think the strength that you can bring to Thai company, if you want to invest in them, you can bring the know-how, how to expand regionally, and you can bring the know-how to and help them to expand internationally. That would be your edge to get Thai startup. Yeah.
I also would like to add another one is the corporate venture capital. They are the key driver in Thailand. Like banking and mobile operator, even like manufacturing company or packaging like SCG or energy company like PTT. But I think it's quite hard it's also another challenge for Thai startup as well, because currently the big corporate, they also spin off, not just only for the CVC, but they maybe like build their own startup inside the corner.
Yeah. I was just going to ask how that is affecting the ecosystem on ups and downside as well.
Yeah.
Is it changing the dynamic for the better? Or for the worse?
Because they have the resource, they have the market. They are the big fish, but clearly they move very fast, faster than Thai startup. So it's quite hard for local player in Thailand to compete with. But they are also still looking for the technology for investment. I also have got the contact from the CVC. Asked me, hey, please reach out, trying to connect them to maybe Israel startup or the Hong Kong startup or from other country. And most of them, they are looking for the deep tech like AI, some of the product they cannot find out in this region. So I think that it still have the room. But as I mentioned, Thai startup is one of the biggest challenge for them, and they need to find out what is their cost range and how to compete with the big player as well.
Yeah. I think the unfair advantage of moving faster for a startup is not really the case anymore. So maybe other
that's true.
advantage. If they don't, maybe technology, maybe some of them that's working with deep technology would have more advantage comparing.
And be localized. And be localized compared to international competitor to come into Thailand. Yeah,
I see.
And I just would like to add that like how well the corporate adapt to the startup scene, right? I think nowadays everyone would like to dig into the innovation business. Everyone like craving for, because they know that they're gonna get disrupted in somehow in some way, and they know that personally, if they behave in that way, they cannot acquire the talents for sure. So in a couple of years, so they start doing the CVC, and during that time it was booming, and then they realize that it's not really integrate that well, because I would say that first, the mindset of corporate CVC nowadays is still looking at their startup. So this one I just want to say to the outsider, like the Hong Kong people who would like to join in Thailand, is I would say that the corporate mindset is still looking at the startup as the outsource or the supplier, not really partnership. So they will treat the startup that they invested in first. They will treat as an outsource and supplier. So okay, you do this project, you do this project, but not really fully integrate with those people. They're not really prepared for like the open source architecture or something that startup can add on their infrastructure. It will be like, okay, I have this project, I hire you to do this project. That's kind of
Like a
relationship
vendor,
man.
like a technician.
Oh, like a technician, right? Like an outsourced thing. And secondly, in the previous day, the corporate used to invest like quite a lot of things, and nowadays they back to be more industry specific. So so you may look at who is the one that you can talk if your company, if your startup is an industry specific. If you're like the general, it will be quite challenging to you for get funding from the corporate, because nowadays they like turn to be more industry specific because they realize that they cannot really integrate startup into and get the useful of the investment much. And what's up? Yeah, and since they start to do their own venture builder by their own self instead of investing in other company. Yeah. So I think the corporate nowadays, they are getting there. They are moving slowly, getting there. So they are. I heard some news that they kind of like employ new people and do like the transformation to get the mindset of startup and be open-minded. But you have to understand that the corporate in Thailand, they still have a lot of compliance. They have still of the regulation that they need to follow. So we are getting there, but it will be slowly on that.
So there are still a very competitive advantage for the startups to compete with the corporates, right?
Yeah.
What are the opportunities? We've seen a lot of Thai startup doing white labeling and targeting B2B. So B2B, as Nikki and you, Mimi, mentioned that is a very big market for startups to reach in Thailand. What are the opportunities? Is it possible for Thailand to be the next big startup capital like Silicon Valley, or even comparing to Singapore?
After the COVID-19, I have seen some of the biggest opportunity is a healthcare industry, because we are really strong in the healthcare, as we have seen there. Yeah, we have seen at how we handle the COVID-19 situation, and even like telemedicine. There are some of the solution like what is the name? I cannot remember exactly. Yes, UCA, Shivi, Dr. A to C, and there are many telemedicine products. Laksa, Dr. Laksa. Yeah, but in terms, if they stand alone, it's quite a challenge for them as well. So we have seen that they have to partner with some of the hospitals that I have seen at this moment. So to be the standalone application is quite a challenge, but I have seen this industry still have a room to grow. And another area is the e-commerce enable platform. For example, like the fulfillment service, like a micro fulfillment. Because we have seen that the one of the biggest market in Thailand, driven by the small medium enterprise, the SME, the merchant, they don't know how to. They cannot do anything by themselves in terms of the logistic packing or store the product by themselves. So the fulfillment service is still still have room to go. This is a two area, and for another one is education tech, and I believe that there are many investors, not just only for international VC, but the local VC in Thailand. Currently, they know that we have the problem in terms of the education system. Start from primary school until university and even like professional, how to upskill and reskill them. So currently we have seen the startup who are trying to solve the education system right now.
What come with e-commerce is supposed to be logistics, supposed to be growing well, right?
It's going well, but we have seen the tech giant company from other country. They so this is a quite a challenge. So if we checking, it's not just only the logistic, but currently the super app they can do. Currently they spin off the delivery service, logistic service, or even if they have the data, the consumer data, they also spin off because they have the consumer data. So they can provide like a micro lending service as well. So we don't want to say that this is the market that the logistic company then compared to each other. But in terms of the boundary, the industry is already blurred.
Yeah. Okay. What about from your side, Nikki? Are there any investment opportunities focusing on any area in specific?
Wait. So what is your question again?
My question is that are there any opportunities regarding the industry of startups in Thailand? Are there anything we should be looking at? Is it possible for Thailand to be Silicon Valley per se?
Okay. Okay, maybe I'm a bit, because I'm in the VC side. For me, okay, because when I work with startup, when I turn from the VC side to the startup side, I have to change my brain a lot. From the VC side, you just have to find every risk, every pitfall, that how can it go wrong. But for startup, you have to look at the bright side, like be very optimistic. But for shy, that's correct. But for VC, we have to go with the worst and pessimistic situation ever. So let's say that I will talk about from the VC side first. I think Thai economy, from every number that we say that I have seen, I don't feel like Thai economy will be in the very bright that much. It's like okay, because I think nowadays every country in the world is not like very bright in terms of economy. And
in the short, right?
Yeah.
In the short-coming future.
Yeah, in the short-coming future. But I think there is some room that I see that it's quite not well developed, and it still have a lot of money left over on the table that people can who can get this solution will get all the money. Personally I kind of like the agricultural business, because as you see that Thailand is one of the largest agriculture country, but we still have a lot of undeveloped and a lot of undisrupt in this market. Maybe it's because that Thai ecosystem is our farmer is the minority. It's not like a major from same as the developed country. Therefore, the people who have startup mindset not really touch the agriculture in this industry that much. So it like have a lot of leftover things to improve. Like for example, our yield per square meter or our yield per area to get the production is not that efficient yet. So and like the money that the government put into this industry is a lot, and they have a lot of help, a lot of funding go into agriculture business. So if you can trickle out and get the solution to help this farmer and get into this industry, I believe that there is a lot of money left over. And also but this industry, if someone would like to come in, so maybe you have to think and overcome the challenge that agriculture business in Thailand is the one that got manipulated by government. by the pricing mostly, not by the factor of production, not by the factor of R&D, but just for the pricing. But personally, I believe that once the public get adopt to your solution, and if your solution have value proposition for them and then adopt it, eventually the government will follow the public decision. Same as Grab, same as the other international company that come to Thailand. Finally, the government will adjust the law and support you if the public support you, because we kind of popularist government.
Also because the concentration of wealth, because I was discussing with one of the agri-tech in Thailand earlier, and he said one of the biggest challenge for agri-tech is scalability, because of they have to educate the market, which the market itself is not very tech savvy in the first place to begin with. So it's going to take a little bit of time and resources in order to scale.
That's true. Yeah, because of both farmer, they not really have a chance to, and they not really have experience to get into the innovation business and get like how can they improve their life better. Because what they get now is kind of like the minimum wage that they can get paid for living from day to day, so they cannot really think and have enough capital to do reinvest or R&D business. And I think most of top tier in Thailand not really touch in this industry that much. They will go for the technology, the computer and the software in other industry much more than agriculture. So
because it's challenging, I think. Yeah. But if it's possible, then it's going to make a lot of impact.
Sure. Yeah. And the second industry that I think it will be good for if some company would like to get some benefit in Thai industry is the service business, because we are one of the most tourist target destiny in the world, like Bangkok, and most of the money that come into Thailand nowadays is temporary money, and the temporary money normally go for the service business. If it is what is the opposite of the temporary?
Permanent.
Sorry. Okay. Okay. All right. So if it's a permanent money, it will go for like the infrastructure, real estate, that thing. So if the money that is a temporary, they will come into like the medical hub, the tourists, and other service. And I think Thai people, we very have the service mind, and I think we very good at it already. So you don't need to train the human capital to have the service mind, because we are already professional of it.
It's our nature now.
Yeah, it's our nature. Smile.
But there are a lot of service platform in Thailand right now. So if you are a overseas startup per se, how would you compete with that? Are there any advice from your side? What do they need to know? Of course, they need to localize. Are there any boundary in terms of starting a startup or even a business in Thailand?
For this service, I mean not in terms of the technology, but in terms of train the human capital. Like it use actual people to serve. Like for example, the medical business, right? It's not the technology, because people not really adopt to the technology, but people adopt to the service that they get the value propositions. And for like the massage service, it's not about the platform, but it's about how to train and how to retain the human capital. What?
So technology is just the tools.
Yeah, the technology is just a tool. What I say is about like service, meaning like really service, how to train people, how to retain people on that one.
So, what about establishing a company, a startup, let's say a technical company here in Thailand? Being a foreigner, would that be any pushbacks, or would that be any challenges compared to, I don't know, Thai startups, let's say?
Mimi, you wanna start first?
Yes, actually, like there is many incentive to support the international startup who would like to establish the company in Thailand. You can check the benefits from the BOI actually. But one of another benefit I have seen is if you are, as I mentioned before, if you are the B2B, normally in corporate, the big corporate in Thailand, they are very welcome to work with the international companies. So if you are like B2B and know that, this is to find out how you can strategic or find out that some of that there are the key angle. For example, like if you have, for example, like some of the deep tech or some of the technique that you cannot find out from the local startup in Thailand. I think there are some big opportunities there. So the first one I would like to recommend is you need to find out the local partner here because of the language is one of the big barrier for international company who want to enter to Thai market. So find out the local partner is very important. The second one we have the talent. Okay, in terms of the we have a good engineer, we have the good developer who with a reasonable price. So we have the many talent pool. And the number 3, as I mentioned, if you want to tap into Thai market, we recommend that you can connect with the big corporate in Thailand. So they are very welcome to work with your guys.
So if you are an overseas startup company, it would be the best for you to connect and go into the B2B market first as well.
In my opinion, there's a lot of opportunities to connect with B side first, and after that you can find out. Yeah, can expand to B to C after you have connect with the big corporate in this region. But anyway, it's not the fixed formula like this. Some company, for example, like Grab, they connect with the government, they connect with the big corporate to find out the partner, but it's a good way how to acquire the consumer. So so work with the companies, find out the partner. For example, like if you check from the my report, we have seen there are many JV company. For example, like JD.com connect with the Central. Grab also connect with many banks, and Line also work with K Bank. So if you check the tracking record, so you will know that there are many JV, or maybe not JV, maybe like just start with the partnership first. That is a good way to enter to Thai market.
It is like can I say that it's like the way to penetrate the market, which when you don't have to. Like, it's like they already have the connections in Thailand, being the big corporates, and if you're partnering with them, it's just like a win-win.
Exactly. This is a strategy that we have seen when the tech giant jump into Thai market. But frankly speaking, in terms of the Thai startup, it's quite a challenge to compete with this way when they enter to Thai market. So they need to think and find out what is a value proposition, what is the key differentiation that you can compete with them. Maybe you don't need to compete with them though, but need to find out another way how to partnership with the tech giant. This is another idea that I think that is like a win-win situation. Don't need to compete to each other.
Okay. So are there any other common pitfalls that Thai startup usually fall through? in terms of not only investment, but also, in terms of partnership with corporates or other organizations?
Because normally Thai startup founders sometimes they don't have the background that they work with big corporate before, and this is one of the biggest challenge when they work and deal or have the negotiation with the big corporate. They don't know how to work with, and they cannot wait because of the corporate. They have many process. Start from this team. Normally they have like a partnership team, but after that the partnership team have to talk to the BU who taking care of this startup. So take the time, maybe like 3 months, 6 months, or maybe a year. So Thai startup should find out how to work with them. If you cannot talk to this way, you might need to think about how to find out
hack your way into the system. Basically.
So the people, the startup founder who have the corporate background before, maybe work with the bank, and after that they jump and start their entrepreneur life. They will understand how to work with the big corporate. For me, even like for the Techsauce, I'm work with a big corporate like almost 12 years as an engineer, and also as a business development before I start my own company. So I think the corporate life trained me a lot how to work with the corporate during that time.
Because no matter how much they are trying to innovate, they still have the process inside, and you need to understand. But then the timeline of the corporates and timeline for startups is moving in a different pace, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not just only like build the product and hey, everyone will use it, but if you want to work with the corporate, you need to understand what is their need, how to work with them, and how to like create the frankly speaking, I call it like unfair advantage, and also protect, because sometimes it is possible that after corporate maybe discuss with you, and after that, this idea I think I can do it by ourselves. And after that they will take
usually that's the case, right?
It's general. Actually, it's not happening only in Thailand. In any country we can find out this challenge. So you need to think what is your unfair advantage and how to protect your asset. This is another part that you need to consider.
Okay. Nikki, are there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah. So with the previous question that you asked Mimi about that, what is the upside and how difficult that the foreigner will establish in Thailand. So I think there will be two types of the entrance enter into market. So if you are like the small startup, like really startup, not like a big player in the regional way, I would say that for the first case that you would like to start, like purely start in Thailand, I would suggest you to have the Thai partner as your partner, because there is a lot of regulation that you need Thai partner to hold your hand and go fight together with those regulators. First of all, there is a lot of, I think the Thai government already did well in some certain aspect, but they still need a lot of things to improve if you want to policy your country to be like the startup hub. That would be a lot of things to do. But that is the question that it doesn't mean that the government did not do well, but the question is whether the government really want to go that way or not. So I will not comment on this one. So, but I would say that if we want to go for like the startup hub, if you are like the startup that really a startup, you need to have a Thai partnership, because there will be a difference of the Thai identity and foreigner identity. Like there is a lot of like, what is it, like like the benefit that the government will give you, and a lot of restriction if you register as a foreign company,
yeah.
other than like the Thai company. So if you want to be a Thai company, you have to have like 51%, or either you can be like the foreign, the BOI. And actually the BOI is not real. It's good for the tech company. It's good for some certain industry, but not really good for startup, because BOI, they are give the incentive for not paying tax. But startup will not pay tax anyway because they don't have profit, right? Yeah. So I think so for BOI, it's not really give the startup benefit, but it give the startup who grow enough, who want to hire foreigner. So okay, they give in that sense. And it needs some amount of capital to set up in Thailand. Like you need to hire legal, you need to set up the company. What I have been done to my friend who is a foreigner is almost 200,000 Thai baht, which is almost 1,000 USD. I think 1,000 USD. 200 around 300
in terms of coming to establish here in Thailand.
Yeah, around 10,000 USD to establish in Thailand, to just set up the legal and set up thing. Yeah, so that is like the initial capital that you would like to start. But if you have like the Thai partnership, that the cost would be like substantial lower. Yeah. And one of the upside that you can, if you would like to come to Thailand, is Thailand, we don't have many competitors if you are the survival of the industry. I say this one. So it's like once you grow up into some certain growth, you will survive. But it will be hard in this part. But once you survive, there is a threshold.
Once you pass that,
your competitor reduce. Yeah, your competitor is gone. You don't have very much competition. So if you pass this threshold, is fine. And Thailand, that we have like one of the friendliest IPO procedure that you can, if you register at a Thai company and you want to list it in the stock market of Thailand, we have like very good the procedure and a lot of support from the government through the mutual fund. So you can make sure that once your company get into the IPO market and your company doing okay, so your multiple of return wouldn't be that sad for sure. So you will get some substantial of the multiple of return from the stock market. Yeah, because stock market in Thailand is quite active, and the price per equity is also is quite high, one of the top rank in the region. And for the pitfall, I think I would agree with Mimi that I think what we're looking for as a venture capital, first thing we look at the founder, and we found that most of some of them are lack of perspective, a lack of experience. Yeah. And
in what sense? In the vertical, or in terms of the dealing with other stakeholders as a whole?
Sometimes they are too naive and they're too optimistic about how they run the business, because they think that everything would be easy and their projection would be like very, very fast, and they're not. When I say that they're not experienced this, meaning that because they never experienced in the market, and they just thought that with this technology or with this invention, they can make people to adopt without doing another cost, without incurring another cost. And sometimes they forgot this one. But this one is nothing to blame them, because in Thailand you need to have like for someone who work in the corporate, right? It's quite some small amount that they decide to come out and work at a startup. And for startups, some of them are like the one who like young age, not have much experience in the corporate or have like still naive to the world, and they start this startup out. Yeah. And the second one is timing. Yeah, timing, that maybe sometimes the genius people think that their innovation is very good for this market and people need it, which is true. Their value proposition is clear, but it's maybe sometimes it's too beyond and too advanced. Yeah, so they need timing to reach that point. And the next one is mostly the company structure, that some startup come to raise fund, but all of their share got eat up by the venture the angel investor. Yeah, angel investor already. And the next one would be like the contact and the toxic term. For example, if you deal with a corporate, some corporate just say to you that you have to deal with me and be the supplier of me one and only. I cannot go with other one else. So that would be the pitfall for the startup, that you don't have other VC to invest in you. And the next one would be cash. That is the most important for a startup. That most of startup, they are very high rising and grow very fast, but they lack of capital to inject and do the working cap for them, and then they die. Yeah. That would be in short and very brief of the pitfall.
And for the founder part is normally they always think about the product too much, and they think about, we have to like how to create attraction to attract the investor. But on the other hand, they also forget about the massive task. It's like a back end operation, financial, how to create a cap table. For example, cap table, as we have discussion before, that the angel investor maybe take like 30% or 40% already, and no room for the new investor. So this is one of the biggest challenge to raise the next round.
So apart from all these pitfalls, there's a lot of opportunities, like we mentioned before, whether it's in healthcare industry, education, agri-tech, or other service businesses. Here comes the most commonly asked questions, which I think you guys have had it for several times. Why hasn't there been a unicorn in Thailand? Are there anything we need to adjust? Are there anything else we need in the ecosystem in order to have one?
For me, frankly speaking, to get the support by the government is very important. We might need to find out the champion as a role model, and then the other will follow. But currently, we lack the champion as a unicorn. But at this moment, I think after we pass the crisis, no, we do not pass the crisis at this moment, but we realize that to be the unicorn or not at this moment, maybe it's not the priority. But how to create the profitable companies and sustainable business is very important, more than to be the unicorn at this moment. But if you want to be the unicorn, one of the first characteristic of this company should be the company who have the footprint in many countries, because Thai market is not big enough for them. If you check like some of the company who have the potential to be the unicorn, I don't want to say that they will be the unicorn, but they are the potential to be, like Omise e-commerce. They have the footprint in the other country like Indonesia, Thailand. If you are the Indonesian startup, it is possible that to be unicorn because their market is really big. Their market size is very big, but in Thailand it's not like that. So encourage the startup. If you want to be the unicorn, if your target is a unicorn, you need to think globally, think regional at the day one. Do not just only focus in Thai market. It's not enough for you to be the unicorn.
Because that's a common mistake for Thai startup as well, to think locally, right?
Yeah.
For me, I think that if we measure the term of the unicorn by the value of the company, without considering other factor, I'm not really sure what is the definition of the meaning of the unicorn. If it meaning just the valuations of the company, I think we have a lot in the stock market that have value like more than billions of the USD. Yeah. But if it like the startup that rapidly growth and have that valuation in like a couple years or maximum 5 years to reach that target, I think in Thailand, I would say it would be unlikely to happen because we need a lot of factor. Like as I say earlier before, we need a lot of the factor that you have high adoption rate, meaning your population is still young on average, and you need to have the population that have wealth enough. You need to have like the number of the population large enough. You need to have like the founder who is right and have the perspective and have the experience in that particular industry. You need to have a right timing. You need to have a right team. It's like a lot of things to build up for you to unicorn, and you need a lot of luck. So I think for Thailand, maybe we not aiming for the unicorn, but we aiming for get into the stock market or get into the M&A deal, which will give you quite substantial enough return.
So it's a different game here in Thailand.
Yeah, it's a different game. It's totally different game from the regional market. If you want to be a unicorn, you can start in Thailand and expand. Fine.
Because as I agree with you and Pimimi, because as we've seen a lot of startups on the news since last year, it's very important to have the profitable model, normally aiming for high valuation, which is not as sustainable right now. So is that what the investor is looking at as well at the moment? The startups that having a more profitable model rather than scaling up, or are you guys still looking for both?
For me, I'm looking for the potential profitable and substantial. For me, they don't need to have right now. If they want to do fundraising, they don't need to have at this moment. That's why otherwise they wouldn't need VC like us. So we look at the potential and the mindset of the founder, and we're looking for how we exit the company. That would be if this startup are very burning but they have like very breakthrough technology and they have like the market need that wide enough, we will invest in them anyway. What we look at is the judgment that how well that they can do and how well that they can turn to be profitable. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, from my side as an ecosystem builder, I hope to see the startup who can solve the social problem they are facing today, like environment, like a health issue. We have a lot of the pollution. We have a lot of the education problem. So in terms of in terms of ecosystem like us, we hope to see the startup who try to focus on the social problem they are facing today. This is the most important thing for the media side and for the ecosystem builder that we hope to see this kind of the startup. Because most of them they are like turn to e-commerce, turn to logistic. They are like very commercial, but yeah, hope to see more startup that focus on the social problem side.
Because of this problem is on the rise, and startup needs to, if for the startup to make impact, like the startup should start with, this is a problem that they can tackle, right?
Yeah.
Right. So last but not least, because we're running out of time, so from your experience, what do you think is the next chapter of Thailand? What's next? What are the industry we should keep an eye on? Are there any possible opportunities that's coming to the country?
As I think the next chapter of Thailand is, since that I'm putting the head of the Wisesight, I'm quite pessimistic of the Thai economy, is because of the consumer market of us is not that strong.
What about you, Nikki? If they need like investment advice, where can they reach you?
Okay, so if you would like to come to Thailand, just make sure first you need to set your target first, whether you want to be the regional company or you want to be the local company. If you want to be a Thai company, you have to make your solution to be localized and make sure that you get some partner to register the company with you to be like the Thai company instead of the foreign company. And you can, if you need some fundraising and other grants, you can contact me for that. And for the register company, if you need some advice, that should be fine. And I think that is pretty much everything. And you can, if you have other questions,
where can we reach you? Is it like Wisesight website or me?
You can reach me at the Wisesight email. Mm-hmm. So how can I? So I tell it right now, or how can I? Oh, okay.
I think there will be popped up or something.
There's technology pop up. So everyone can follow me under here.
Like a TV show now, aren't we?
Speak out. Okay. NUTTHANUN.J@Wisesight WISESIGHT.com.
Okay. All right. I think there will be some pops up because they're quite long.
Here.
Okay. Thank you. So there are a lot of challenges because of the economy, but there's still a lot of opportunities, a lot of blue ocean here in Thailand as well. From our panelists would be on the architect, healthcare, education, and e-commerce. Of course, and also service businesses. The best way is to find the local partners and set aside some money to establish here in Thailand. If you have any other question, you can reach our panelists at the address they just given. So thank you, Mimi and Nikki, for being here and sharing your valuable experience with us. I believe you guys have learned a lot from this session, and of course, other session that's lining up as well. So have fun, and thank you guys so much. And I'll see
Thank you, Ka.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, พี่มิมิ Thank you มาก
ขอบคุณค่ะ Thank you ค่ะ